In a world obsessed with rankings, two men dare to chisel greatness out of metaphorical granite, one wildly subjective opinion at a time. This show, every episode, we select four icons from a single topic and immortalize them in our own personal halls of fame. Subjective? Absolutely. Debatable? Always. Set in stone? Until next week. Welcome to the Mount Rushmore Show, where your top four says everything about you. I'm Mike Mintz. He's Joe Mintz, and Joe, we're moving away from some of the sports this week, and we're heading back into the entertainment realm, and we've picked somebody that, is one of the most decorated, I would say, as far as movies and all of that stuff. So I'll stop.
Before you say who it is, I want to
Yes.
tee up the reason we're doing this Mount Rushmore. There's a very exciting movie coming out called One Battle After Another. Mike, have you heard about this movie?
I don't see how you could avoid it. I mean, you're talking about not only the star but also the director, and the themes that are coming out of this movie are so prescient to the moment. I mean, it is almost one of those perfect little things that the universe has kind of conspired into this moment here. So,
I love both PTA
mhm.
and Leo, right? And this is PTA's most ambitious project to date. He's got the biggest budget of his entire career and a powerhouse cast that has Leo DiCaprio as a star. First time teaming up, shall I say. Additionally, Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn. Um, the movie comes out, I believe, in a week, but early reactions are calling it. I'm going to use Rotten Tomato critic terms: sprawling and intimate. A war
Ooh.
epic with Anderson's signature precision and DiCaprio delivering a performance that critics are already saying is one of his most layered in years. Two legends. And I thought about this movie, and I thought about a Mount Rushmore around this movie, and I thought about PTA. It was, do we do a Paul Thomas Anderson Mount Rushmore? The problem with that is he doesn't have the biggest filmography. He is a director that probably only does a movie, what would you say, every 5 years, maybe?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
He maybe only has four movies worth even discussing on a Mount Rushmore. So it's doesn't create a lot of parity between our two picks. But we have another person in this movie, Leonardo DiCaprio, who has a enormous filmography that we could give a great nod to. So this week, our Mount Rushmore picks are going to be of our favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movies.
I think this is a perfect time to talk about Leo. We've talked about other actors in the past. We've done, Tom Cruise and we've done Brad Pitt, who are very pop actors. They do a lot of mainstream films. And while DiCaprio does a lot of mainstream films, the dude is critically acclaimed in almost everything he touches. You were saying that this is one of his most layered performances. That's hard to understand considering he has what, five Best Actor nominations in his career? Like this guy, everything he does is a big awards darling.
Yeah, his career is probably as long as, say, a Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, even though he's younger, because he got an early start. Let's rewind. His journey began as a child actor with really raw and dramatic chops. His first movie as a kid was teaming up with Robert De Niro in This Boy's Life,
Oh
and
wow.
then later went on to do What's Eating Gilbert Grape with Johnny Depp, where he actually earned his first Oscar nomination at just 19 years old. Then he pivoted to become a box office heartthrob, so to speak, skyrocketing with, I would say, global fame with Romeo and Juliet, and of course, Titanic being at the time the biggest box office film of all time, which still may hold up if they didn't have superhero movies. But unlike many who flame out and with after that sort of child fame, we've seen it time and time again. Leo pivoted again. He reinvented himself as a very prestige adult dramatic actor. And he probably credits most of that to his teaming up with great directors, from Steven Spielberg to Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, Christopher Nolan. Um, and then he was one of those guys, similar to Al Pacino in his career, where he had a lot of nominations and a lot of respect. But he was one of those you look back on. He never won an Oscar until they finally crowned him for The Revenant. But by then, his filmography, I would say, already spoke for himself. Um, it kind of feels like a hindsight award, like Scent of a Woman felt for Al Pacino when they should have gave it to him for The Godfather. Um, Now his career's a little bit different. He's still doing great work, but he's incredibly selective. He doesn't pop out a film every year or two. He chooses projects that he's really passionate about and that sparks a lot of anticipation across Hollywood.
And that's a really good rundown of a career that is really, digging into the research of this one, Joe, I was surprised. I'm like, I was expecting him to have 100 credits, and he really only has 45, which is a lot for a short career. But then you start digging into those credits, and they're monster hit after monster hit. If they're not big box office draws, which a lot of them are, they're huge award darling performances. And it's like Leo has become, I don't even know if it's arguable at this point, the consensus actor of a generation. He is, the Brando or something where he's done it all. And if you're going to put a guy into a movie and grab a draw off of a movie star name, I mean, it's hard to go against a guy like Leonardo DiCaprio.
I love these movie star Mount Rushmores, and one of the reasons is I love understanding the movie star itself and like where they stand as a quote unquote movie star. And to me, what makes DiCaprio stand out in today's landscape is that sense of mystery. I feel like now as movie star, you're required to be in an age of oversharing. Leo's always maintained a very private life, letting his really performances just do the talking. Compare that to, say, younger up and coming stars with a similar filmography at that age, such as Timothy Chalamet, who's incredibly talented, similar career arc, but constantly present in the public eye. He does the podcast, shares his personal life, goes on Big Noon Kickoff. Leo, by contrast, feels like the last of a dying breed of movie star who disappears between roles and then reemerges only when the project's worthy.
Yeah, I think that's a fair one. And before we jump into this, Joe, full disclosure, um, I doing this show has taught me a lot about myself. The great thing about a show like this, where you're picking your tops every week, is you start to kind of understand where you fall on some of these things. I am a popcorn bait kind of guy. That means I want action movies, I want popcorn, I want fun. Usually big box offices. I don't mind the dramas. I don't mind the Oscar Best Pictures and stuff like that. I don't love them typically. And so I'm finding myself, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is a perfect guy to kind of be right on the edge of both of those things. He's doing the big movies that anybody can enjoy, but he's also doing some big swings from a professional standpoint in some of these amazing movies, and probably brings eyes to them that other actors never would. And so this was a tough one for me to get into. Okay, well, which ones do I love that aren't necessarily the consensus picks that everybody's going to go with? What are my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio ones? And where do I stand? And so I don't know. You said earlier, you're a big PTA fan. So I wonder if we might have a disconnect here, Joe, on where we stand with movies. Maybe you're more into the artistic ones, and I'm more into even a really bad action movie is a good action movie.
Yeah, that's what makes this Mount Rushmore so great is you define it, right? Is we're not saying this is the Mount Rushmore of Leonardo DiCaprio critical performances. Because then you just rattle off everything he's won an Oscar, been nominated for, right? Whereas this is your favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movies. Um, so an example of that would be The Revenant, which I
Hmm.
mentioned won him the Academy Award. But if you look at his career, many won't discuss as far as their favorite Leo movies. And spoiler alert, it's arguably his best performance, but it's not my favorite movie. Saw in theaters, it's good, intense. That bear scene, boy, the crawling, a lot of gnarly grunting throughout the movie. Respect it, but I don't want to rewatch it. To me, a great Leo movie is something you can turn on the TV unexpectedly halfway through and you're locked in. And he's got many of those, which made it hard. Usually, like most Mount Rushmores, the first one or two were pretty easy, and you really got to think hard about those last two to whittle some stuff out.
Well, okay. Should we kick it off, Joe? Should we get it started here?
Start it off, Mike.
All right. Well, I always struggle. So should I save the best for last or should I go with the best? And I'll be honest, this is my personal favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movie. I don't
I
want to
say start with it.
start with it. Well, let's do
Start
it.
with a
That's what I
bang.
was
Let's keep him engaged.
That's what, well, I'm gonna do it. This is my personal favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movies. And there's others that are contenders, but this one rises above. It may not be yours, but it's mine, and it's The Wolf of Wall Street. I love this movie.
I knew
I
it.
I think it's his best performance in my opinion because it's you don't expect that from Leo. He shows a really amazing comedic timing and a brave performance to do things that you wouldn't expect from a major actor in a movie that is ultra ultra. I mean, it's got the what it won the record. It's a dubious honor, but it has the record or it did for the most amount of F words in a film. And the movie from front to back is just it's crazy. That's the best way I can describe it. Is it's a ride from the beginning to the end. I'm laughing. I'm enjoying every minute of it. Yeah, it's a fun film. I do want to give obviously it is a major hit. $407 million on a $100 million project. He was a huge hit before this. He's going to get nominated for some stuff. It's a true-ish story based on a guy named Jordan Belfort, who actually helped kind of write the script to some degree and actually has a cameo in the film. But if you've never seen it, don't have the kids around. Let's put it that way.
Mike, I knew you were going to pick this because it is also my unanimous number one Leonardo DiCaprio movie. Just one of my favorite entertaining movies. It's over 3 hours, which is a long time, but it flies by. I've probably seen it 3 or 4 times. I could have got a pilot's license the amount of hours I've spent watching The Wolf of Wall Street. That's how good this is. Um, as you mentioned, very big hit, and another team up of Martin Scorsese and Leo. They have done several projects before then and then thereafter. But I would say this was his most audacious role playing Jordan Belfort. And I actually have been reading Jordan Belfort's autobiography that this script was turned into, The Wolf of Wall Street. And the movie and the book are aligned. They did not Hollywood it up. They shared the story that Belfort put out there. This real life stockbroker whose greed and excess defined Wall Street's darkest corners. The film was very polarizing. Um, Critics definitely praised what Leo did with his fearless comedic energy, while others criticized the glorification of excess. But shoot, that's what I loved about it. It had 5 Oscar nominations, and you mentioned it being a hit, over 400 million worldwide. And at this point, I felt like Leo was already a very respected dramatic actor. But when this movie came out, it showed me a side of him doing dark comedy and a physical performance that I didn't know he was capable of. And I remember at the time, he campaigned really hard for this movie. He personally secured the rights to Belfort's book and pushed it to Scorsese to direct. Um, it gave him the 4th Oscar nomination for him at the time, and it also showed people he wasn't afraid to look ridiculous. I think of the Quaalude scene where he's crawling, screaming into telephones, and breaking the fourth wall, which was improvised, by the way. Um, it's now one of his most iconic roles. And Jonah Hill even bit into a real piece of ham during the choking scene, sending him to a hospital afterward. Just another fun fact about that movie.
It's incredible, and you brought up the fact, that it can be offensive, and it's gratuitous and it's excess. To me, that's what an R-rated movie should be. These are not kids' movies. You're not taking your kids. You shouldn't be. I'm not making any morality judgment calls, but if you're watching a fun movie, this isn't about trying to tell you how to live your life. You're basically peeling back into a chapter that is vicarious. You're going, oh my God, this kind of stuff exists. And it's wildly entertaining to watch this amazing train wreck, and people that are who they are. They're human beings doing, really questionable things with their lives. It's very entertaining. So.
I'm glad you picked that. Well, now we share number one, so hit us with number two.
All right, so this one is a personal pick. This one's gotten there. There's certainly people on both sides of this spectrum. This director tends to do this, divide people. This movie, when it came out, was a massive thing, a cultural juggernaut. Over time, though, retroactively, people are starting to question it, and that is Inception. Inception comes out 2010. It is Christopher Nolan's really his step out from after doing the Batman movies. It's an original story and it's about dreams. If you didn't know, it's essentially people dreaming, kind of shared dreams where you have almost like a dream heist is the best way I can kind of describe it. And if you've never seen it and you're going, that sounds surreal, it is. And I think that's really what divides people is because dreams are so bizarre for most people anyways. And then you're going to try to make a movie about shared dreaming. It has issues, it has problems, but huge success. $839 million worldwide, fourth highest grossing film. Then it's 2010, Nolan's original piece. I want to get into the spinning corridor scene in just a minute, but I wanted to bring up the fact that like this movie divides people, and the ending of it divides people on what happens. And some people love it, some people hate it. There doesn't seem to be much middle ground. The thing I love about this movie is its genuine creativity. And I'm going to talk about the spinning corridor scene. It's in the hallway of the hotel, in where the hotel hallway is quite literally spinning in a 360 as the people are in it. And what I love about the scene is it's not CGI. They did it practically. 100-foot long hotel hallway set built inside a airship hangar, suspended on large concentric rings powered by electric motors that allowed it to rotate 360 degrees. The Joseph Gordon-Levitt fight scene in there, which he described as a giant hamster wheel. And it's one scene out of a movie, but it goes, that's the level that they went to make this really kind of incredible film. I love it. I understand if other people don't.
I can't hate on the pick, but I can give you my opinion, and I am in the dislike camp. It was a movie. I remember when it came out. It had all the things you want to see in the movie: Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom Hardy, who was a budding star at the time, and then directed by Christopher Nolan, who made one of my favorites ever with the Dark Knight movies, and has done several great works after. Everyone said to me before I saw it, "It's great, but you have to see it twice to know what happened or what's going on." And I felt that way while watching it. Maybe I wasn't giving it enough full attention, or maybe it didn't it was too confusing and I lost a bit and tuned out. I got confused and I got lost in the sauce. Like any Christopher Nolan movie, I greatly appreciate the aesthetics of his movie, the scripts, the intricacy, how much goes into it. But I just couldn't follow along to just escape. Wolf of Wall Street, that's a movie you can escape. It's not hard to follow. You just get lost in the craziness of their worlds. Inception, you have to lock in. Take an Adderall, get a cup of coffee. You better turn phone on silent mode. Maybe I would appreciate it more the second watch as I'm older now, but I never gave it that. In fact, I kind of have a disdain for movies that tell you have to watch them twice. Who do you think you are? It's almost out of spite. I don't watch it twice.
What, Joe, you don't like to take notes when you're watching movies and try to like, take a test at
Um,
the end of it? So,
oh man, I don't want to feel like there's gonna be a pop quiz at the end of this, and it felt like that, and it felt like something I had to watch to just have something to talk about at a water cooler, which I don't like that anyway.
I love that take because you're not alone, Joe. Most people that dislike this movie dislike it for the very same reasons. And so that is a warning to anybody. It's not accessible necessarily. If it's something that sounds cool, jump in. You're probably going to see it twice. If you like it, you're going to want to. If you don't, that's a chore. And I can understand that for some people's perspectives. And that's what makes this type of show great is we are very much different. We've shared a pick, and now we are on opposite ends of the spectrum.
If we had the same four picks, Mike, which we don't know each other's going in, we
No.
never do. How that wouldn't be very fun. We have to pick something where we have a little bit different. Got to give the fans some variety.
Well, I've taken two big swings at it, Joe. It's your turn, man. What do you got for your first pick?
I am going to go with an earlier one of his, and that is Catch Me If You Can.
Perfect.
Directed by Steven Spielberg, first time they worked together. This cat and mouse caper put together Leo and another legend in Tom Hanks, where he played another true character, similar to Wolf of Wall Street, in Frank Abagnale Jr., a teenager conning his way across the globe. Um, at the time, critically, they adored his breezy charm and Spielberg's polish, and it was a big box office success as well, grossing over 350 million. And at the time, he's coming off Titanic. Leo was still in that pretty boy phase of his career. Catch Me If You Can, I think helped reposition him, proving he could handle the charisma and charm and lighter material while still giving some depth. Um, and it was a bridge between the teen idol phase and his prestige adult career. It showed studios, directors that he could play characters a little more vulnerable, with intelligence, witty. And the real Frank Abagnale Jr. cameoed as a French policeman who arrests Leo's character in the final act. A wink at the true story. Um, and I just love this movie. I've seen it several times. I love Tom Hanks' accent. I love the chasing. I love how he can play these different characters. I still use the word concur from when he was a doctor. When in doubt, just say you concur. It makes you sound smart. It's a great fold for what you actually do or don't know. But it's just such a great rewatchable movie, similar to Wolf of Wall Street. And every time it comes on, my afternoon plans are clear to finish it.
I think Catch Me If You Can is one of my all-time favorite Spielberg films and it's also a great Leo film. What's amazing about it is you're telling a story about a professional liar, right? A guy that's going out there and he's making up everything. He's a con man, a confidence man, and he's doing it, and it's so compelling, and it's almost a folk hero because you're cheering on the guy to kind of stick it to the man. I love this story. I love the movie. The thing I find the favorite thing I found about this movie is I've dug into Frank Abagnale and I've dug into some of the history, and it is unverifiable whether or not the lies he was telling were true lies, if that makes any sense. Which to me, if somebody goes, that ruins the film, it doesn't. It makes it beautiful because understand this, if you're making a movie about a con man, if the story the con man is telling you is also a con, that is a beautiful thing.
And it goes back to a different time where you could get away with things just with charm. We didn't have the checks and balances and procedures back in that day that we have today. Um, you could just charm a bank teller and get away with them doing you a favor, or looking the other way. Now everything is so processed, and honestly, that's probably because of guys like Frank Abagnale why we have those in place. The first commandment is "Thou shalt not kill." You know why that's in place? Because someone killed. We create these rules because other people find ways to work around them. So I think there's a lot of con men that could have continued after him, but aren't there because of him. In fact, he worked most of his career in the FBI, as displayed in the movie, to stop guys like him. So I feel like there's a silver lining in Frank Abagnale's story, which I appreciated too.
It's a great pick. Catch Me If You Can. One of his all-time. Yeah, it's one of those all-time fun ones. You can throw it on and watch it, man. So, all right. I guess I'm down to number three. So I'm gonna go. I always do this. I always pick one that is ultimately personal and that maybe other people, would be like, "How dare you put that on your top four?" But it means something to me, and this is my wild card pick for Leonardo DiCaprio films, and that is The Quick and the Dead.
Whoa.
1995. It's a neo-noir Western kind of Sam Raimi. I love Sam Raimi. Evil Dead was awesome. Army of Darkness is one of my all-time favorites. I think he's continued to have a really cool career. It's different from other major directors. I love his style. And The Quick and the Dead is a Western, but it's not your typical one. One of my favorite framing devices in movies, because I'm an action movie guy, is what's called the tournament fighter, where you put people into a tournament, such a Enter the Dragon or a Bloodsport, right? You have a tournament as your central device. The Quick and the Dead is that. Instead of a tournament fighter where they're martial arts, this is gunfighters. This is 10 paces, turn and shoot, and who is the quickest in the West. It's got some amazing performances. Sharon Stone's in it, Russell Crowe, but it's Gene Hackman who really pulls this whole thing together. And Leo's young. This is 95. His character is called the Kid. He's this cocky young gunfighter who he's obsessed with taking out the best. He's not the star of the show. He's a supporting character, and his performance is fine. But if I'm taking Leonardo DiCaprio movies that I turn on and watch all the way through, I love this film, and it was not a success, Joe. And I know you're going to call me out on that. It was a box office disappointment. It's going to make less than $50 million. It has gone on to be somewhat of a cult classic, and hopefully, if somebody's listening, going, "Never heard of it," you might dig it, man. It is definitely different. It's got its own style to it. Takes some swings, and DiCaprio's great in it. But overall, I love this movie. I love Quick and the Dead.
Mike, I have not seen this movie.
You should
I
watch it.
know of it, obviously, because the big cast, as you mentioned, but I never looked at it as a real Leo movie in my
It's fair.
mind. I mean, he just came off of What's Eating Gilbert Grape, where he got an Oscar nomination, but he was kind of a quirky, skinny kid. He hadn't done Romeo and Juliet yet or Titanic and become a leading man yet. We didn't know what his career was going to be. And the movie itself, as you mentioned, was flawed, especially critically, um, and in the box office as well. But I do appreciate that it did show a side of him with charisma. I mean, he came off playing someone mentally handicapped, so I think he had to take a swing the whole different direction. And it also showed he can hold his own against a really heavy hitting cast. Yes, he'd worked with Robert De Niro one on one at a young age, but this was an all star lineup, not just one guy. And Sharon Stone saw something in him. She was a producer of the movie and personally pushed for DiCaprio to be cast in it. Um, Reportedly, she even paid his salary out of her own pocket when the studio balked at hiring an unknown actor, which he was considered by many at the time. I would say it was a good stepping stone role for him. Obviously, the movie is kind of forgettable in many ways in the zeitgeist of his massive career. Um, but showed, when you can hang your own with Hackman and Crow, it'll help pivot you to the next thing for sure, especially if they speak highly of you to other producers.
Well, and one last thing I will say about it, because the movie's called The Quick and the Dead. It's about gunfighting. Obviously, people are going to win and people are going to lose. DiCaprio does a great job bringing emotional bottom to his character. He's a young kid. And I'm going to say the quote, but I'm not going to give away the scene because I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But if you know, you know. And it's after a duel where he says, "Did I get him?" And if you know the movie, you know the scene I'm talking about. And it has resonance. And even as a young actor, I could tell I was like, dude, this guy's got something, right? He can pull on those heartstrings. He can get that emotion out of somebody, even as a kid.
Yeah. Sometimes it take even a small role, you see something, you're like, that guy has it, and he had it.
He had it. All right, Joe, what do you got?
Man, another one as I go through this, just a movie I've seen so many times, like all these others. I mean, collectively in my Mount Rushmore, although it's only four picks, I've probably seen them in total like 20 times. But my next one's The Departed.
Oh, so
I
good.
just love this movie. Um, Martin Scorsese again, a crime epic set in Boston, um, with Leo as Billy Costigan, an undercover cop embedded in the mob. Man, did it have a great cast between Jack Nicholson as the mob boss, based off of a loosely based off of a real Boston mob in oh man, what's his name?
Oh,
Oh,
that's yeah. Go
the
ahead.
Boston mobster. It'll come to me later. I won't forget this. Um, but he had a big cast to work with, coming off of another movie. He had a big cast in your last pick, between Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg, Martin Sheen. Jack Nicholson, obviously, I already mentioned. The film was both a critical and commercial success, over 300 million worldwide, and winning 4 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director. The first Best Director for Martin Scorsese. And by this came out in 2006. And by this time, Leo was already transitioning into darker, more adult roles. That same year, he also starred in Blood Diamond, earning him dual Best Actor nominations. The Departed was his "I'm not a boy anymore" moment. It felt like he kind of put on a little bit of muscle. He had facial hair for the first time. He was kind of tough and rugged, getting in bar fights, showing he could hold his own in a gritty, testosterone-fueled cast. Um, and the film cemented his partnership with Scorsese. The first time they worked together, and as the defining actor-director duos of the 21st century. He was not nominated for The Departed, a snub in my mind. Mark Wahlberg was the only acting nod from that movie, but the role solidified him as Hollywood's go-to dramatic lead for complicated anti-heroes. Fact about the movie is Scorsese told Leo to never rehearse scenes with Nicholson beforehand to preserve the unpredictable tension on camera. Nicholson even pulled a real gun in one take that Leo was not expecting.
It's such Departed. Okay, so I went back and watched a lot of Leo movies. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Whitey Bulger
I was
came
gonna
to
say,
me.
I was gonna
The
say
light
Whitey
bulb
Bulger.
moment. He
Yeah.
was the Boston mobster Jack Nicholson's character was loosely based on.
Yeah, The Departed. I went back and watched a lot of these movies, and The Departed was the first one I was like, God, I gotta rewatch that, because I remember when it came out, and I remember the word of mouth at the time, and people were saying, you have to see it, you have to see it, based on a Japanese movie, Infernal Affairs. What a story! Unbelievable. It's not just it's not a cat and mouse game. It's a rat versus rat game. It is moles and other moles fighting each other in this underground within the overground. It is so layered to this story. It deserves more than one watch. It really does because the first time through, it's amazing. Don't get me wrong. And you can watch it one time and get plenty out of it. But after repeated viewings, you start to see the genius behind these things. The characters, you start to realize there's even one kind of throwaway scene where a guy's dying and he says, he knows you're a cop because I know you were him. Why didn't I say anything? And the first time you see it, it doesn't really mean much. And then you go back to it and you go, oh my God, that guy was also a rat, was also a mole. So there's more, there's so much layered to this whole thing that makes this movie really incredible. I love the symbolism. Scorsese. I mean, come on, the rat at the end coming across the X's in the hallway. From a filmmaking standpoint, and as a fan of filmmaking, it's hard not to love The Departed. That being said, The Departed is a rough movie. There are scenes that will absolutely terrify you, horrify you. There's characters that you can't believe. I love the scene. Sorry, I'm rambling here, but I love the scene near the beginning when we're meeting Jack Nicholson's character, and it's him, and he shoots the lady, and he goes, "Man, she fell funny." And that line is just it's humorous, but do you also realize the reason he's saying it is because his character has clearly killed many people just like this. So many in fact, that he has the comment on
Good
how
tidbit.
funny she felt. And it's just like it's that kind of layers that makes The Departed. To me, it's the Best Picture winner, and it's one of my all-time. I don't love Best Picture winners, and I love The Departed. So
Yeah, you got a point earlier. It's a movie that isn't overly complicated. It's not Inception, but there is all these tidbits that you catch on rewatches. So the movie ages better the more you see it. I catch little things that kind of pass me by, like that great moment where she fell funny. You're right.
yeah.
You just kind of taking it in, and then you appreciate what he's actually saying after further watch. You just get things later, and that's what I love about that movie.
What a cast. Going back and watching that, I watched it with my wife, and every time a new person came on, it was like, oh my God, that's Alec Baldwin. That's Mark Wahlberg, that's Martin Sheen. It's like everybody is huge in that film. So
Yeah. Is this on your Rushmore as well for your fourth pick? Did you just
so
spoil it?
I kind of did, and I was tough because I'm out. But this The Departed is definitely it's got to be. It's
The,
my
the passion and vigor you just shared, it couldn't have not got ahead. I knew it.
it's one of my all-time favorite movies, and it's a tough one to tell people to watch because there are rough things in it. But I find that the beauty of it collectively, if we were to flatten it out, The Departed is just an excellent film, front to back. And unlike Inception, where you feel like you're getting homework and taking notes and you have to come back and watch it to get it, you'll get The Departed the first time through. You'll get everything. And if you watch it more times, you're going to find how wonderfully crafted this entire thing really is. It's genius.
Man, I just want to watch The Departed. Maybe we could do a Mount Rushmore of Departed characters or Departed quotes. Like there could be its own Rushmore around that movie. That's how much I love that movie. It is the top five of my favorite movies of all time. Depending on the time of day and what mood I'm in, it might be number one. It's one of those that rustles the top. But I want to just shut this down and turn it on right now, Mike. Got me all
Let's
pumped
do it.
up.
What's funny is I hadn't seen it in a while because I watched it a bunch when it
That's
came
the
out.
best. When you haven't, I almost it's better to delay watching it as long as you can, because the longer you delay it, the better the watch it's going to be.
And when you said DiCaprio, I was like, okay, I got to go rewatch some movies. And the first one that popped in was The Departed, and I'm glad I did. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot so much about it. Not only that, there were more things I noticed as I went through. But bottom line is, Joe, I'm out, man. That was my fourth and final right there. So
Well, for my final pick, I am going to pick a movie I've already discussed on a different Mount Rushmore episode that already has its head crafted, and that is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This was in our Brad Pitt Mount Rushmore movies. This was Tarantino's love letter to 1960s Hollywood. And Leo, as the lead, was Rick Dalton, the fading TV cowboy star, worried he's washed up. Um, I thought he brought to the role humor, ego. The scene that's most memorable to me is when he is in the trailer coming off of a scene as a villain, as a guest spot on a Western show, threatening to kill himself if he screws up. Talking about, you have to have 8 whiskey sours. Couldn't you just have 4? Get it together. I love that scene, the breakdown, most of that being improvised. The movie earned 10 Oscar nods, grossed over $377 million. Brad Pitt was the one that won the Best Supporting Actor nod, although Leo was nominated for the lead role. And he was coming right off of The Revenant, where he won his first Academy Award. So he was a big ticket. And after he won that long-awaited Oscar, I felt like this was a role he could take on, having nothing left to prove, which made him what I felt was looser, maybe more self-aware in the performance. That allowed him to poke fun at himself while still demonstrating that range that we love about him. And Rick Dalton probably has become one of his most beloved characters. I personally connected with all the insecurities, and so did other fans of that sort of guy, the imposter syndrome. While Tarantino gave Leo room for some of his, I would say, funniest work in that trailer scene and many others. The line flubbing trailer meltdown is what I'll call it. It's a highlight of his career among, I would say, if we had a Mount Rushmore of moments, Quaalude scene makes it, the trailer meltdown scene makes it. I have to think about some others, but those two are unanimous. And
it's one.
like I
Yeah.
said, most of that was improvised. And what Tarantino told him for that scene, imagine you're mad at yourself. Then Leo just went on a rant, smashing props and ad-libbing lines. It was great.
DiCaprio is great in that. Brad Pitt's great in that. It's Tarantino, and I'm happy. Here's the thing about Tarantino is like a film guy, right? And you're probably like, oh, you love every Tarantino movie. That's not true. I thought actually Hateful Eight was a step down, and so I was a little bit tentative when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was coming out because I didn't know, is this a return to form? And thankfully it was. I think it might be one of Tarantino's all-time greats. And so it kind of re-energized me into Tarantino and my love for what he does. DiCaprio's great in it. It's a two-hander, really. It's between him and Brad Pitt, and they work. they're not working against each other. They're working together collectively, and they're elevating each other's game. I love the storyline. I love Tarantino's way of taking us back to that time period, revisionist history, which he's become kind of known for. And it has one of the all-time great endings to a movie, period. I won't spoil, but if you don't know it, dig into it.
A
And like you said,
Tarantino ending, we'll call it.
well, yeah, very much so. And it's one of those. It's a movie that's tough for me because we know it's Tarantino's ninth, and he said I'm only doing 10. And so I think even for Tarantino, how do you follow that movie up? And I know he's talked. He had the movie critic, and now he said, "Well, I'm not going to do that." And I think even he is probably realizing the pressure that this excellent Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has put on him to finish a career. And if it ends here, if he doesn't make a 10th. I think everybody would agree it was a great nine movies and a perfect ninth film. So
Also, you should know Tarantino wrote a follow-up to that movie. I would say Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth, some of the best movie characters of all time. And although he can only, in his words, make a true Tarantino written and directed by a film, he's still writing scripts. And he wrote a script called The Adventures of Cliff Booth. Takes place in the late 70s, following Cliff Booth only. Rick Dalton's not in it. And Tarantino is not directing it, but guess who is? David
well,
Fincher. And they're
I was
making
gonna
it right now. Put that movie in my mouth. I want it now.
I was gonna say if Tarantino's not gonna direct a Brad Pitt movie, the only other person I would accept would be David Fincher. Two of my all-time favorite Pitt movies are Fincher films and Seven and of course the other one Fight Club. And so I love David Fincher too. So yeah, do it.
When
I
that
want it.
movie comes out, we're doing a David Fincher Mount Rushmore.
Oh, there's some choose. He's still killing it. I think he's still great. So
And that's it, man. He's Leonardo DiCaprio, the living legend. Um, and in my mind, an actor who continues to redefine what a movie star can be. And one battle after another could mark yet another peak for him. Who knows? By the time his career is over, we might be carving out an entirely new Mount Rushmore of his greatest performances. Until then, he's proving one thing: the mountain for him is not yet finished.
one of the most decorated actors of all time, certainly of his generation, nearly 70, maybe even more. That's probably a conservative bet. Probably more than 70% of his films have either been nominated or won major awards. The dude hits home runs. He hits grand slams every time at bat. I'm excited for one battle after another. Sean Penn looks incredible. Paul Thomas Anderson kind of making a more modern film, which is odd for him. Should be exciting. But like you said, I think to your point, right? In 10 years' time, we may have four completely different Leonardo DiCaprio films on this list.
I agree. Love the man.
All right, let's wrap it up. That's what you hear from us, okay? These are our picks. But the real question is, what would you carve onto your mountain? Until the next episode, he's Joe Mintz, I'm Mike Mintz, and this is the Mount Rushmore Show.